The shields in Borderlands 3 have always been pretty underwhelming. At launch, most of the shields in this game were just that, shields, being used primarily for defense with very few actual offensive abilities. That was until near the end of the game's life, when the shield meta in Borderlands 3 shifted forever. Hey everyone, I'm Constant Canadian, and this is the shield that broke Borderlands 3. If you enjoy this video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe as it really helps out the channel. At the launch of Borderlands 3, like I said, there were very few useful offensive shields. There was the Nova Burner, which was offensive, but the Novas did so little damage that it wasn't worth it. There was also the Revolter, but the one-time damage bonus every 3 seconds was not worth losing half of your shield to do it, especially without any health regen. The main meta shields in Borderlands 3 at launch were the Transformer, which made you not only immune to all shock damage, but also healed you for a percentage of that damage as well. The Stopgap, which granted complete immunity for 5 seconds upon depletion, and the Mendel's multivitamin that gave a 50% increase to health, primarily used by Moes. Then, with the launch of DLC 1, we were introduced to 2 more very useful shields. The All-In, which dropped boosters that increased luck, and the Rico, a less powerful sham with an 80% chance to reflect bullets back at attackers. With DLC came the Old God. This was the first actually useful offensive shield. The Old God gave a 20% damage boost, as well as a 25% damage resistance to whatever element it rolled with. With DLC 4, we got the Faulty Star and Plus Ultra, both of which were pretty mid-tier shields, with the Faulty Star being yet another underpowered Nova shield. Then in DLC 5, we got the Gas Mask, Beskar, Madcap, and Infernal Wish, with the only actual offensive option here being the Infernal Wish. There was also the Asclepius that came with the Guardian Takedown, and while that was a very good offensive shield for melee builds, it was nothing compared to what came with DLC 6. DLC 6 gave us 3 shields. The Mana Well, a cool concept that ultimately fell behind, the Super Soldier, which is good offensively at least for 5 seconds until your invulnerability wears off, and the shield that absolutely destroyed Borderlands 3's shield meta, the Revolter. The Revolter is an absolutely ridiculous shield that completely shattered any semblance of balance in Borderlands 3. For those unaware, the Revolter, when depleted, shock enrages your character, giving them not only 50% extra fire rate, but also 200% bonus shock damage for 15 seconds. That in of itself is stupidly good, but if you pair that with the action skill Start Anointment and a skill that has a sub 15 second cooldown, which pretty much everyone but Moes has, you can essentially just have a permanent 50% fire rate buff as well as 200% extra shock damage. This damage buff makes even the most trivial of weapons actually useful, even at Mayhem 10 or 11, which reminds me of another shield from Borderlands 2. The B shield is one of Borderlands 2's best shields. I'm not going to say that it's the only good shield in this game. The Blockade, Antagonist, and Rough Rider all have their places, but if you just want raw damage potential, then the B shield is gonna be your best option. The B shield, unlike the Revolter, grants damage based on a flat value for each level. Also unlike the Revolter, the B shield only works if the shield is completely full. The B shield was one of Borderlands 2's most powerful shields, and it would have been the franchise's most powerful offensive shield if it weren't for the Revolter. But the Revolter is just so much better than the B shield. So powerful in fact, that it may even be a problem for Borderlands 3. It has been said before that Borderlands 3's DLC have made the game feel sort of pay to win, as it were, with every new DLC coming with a whole slew of new gear that's infinitely better than all the gear that came before it. This has been happening since DLC 1, with the Seeing Dead class mod for Zane or the Ion Cannon, and continued to happen with every new DLC launch, with the Anarchy, the Complex Root, the Plasma Coil, and the Free Radical. The Revolter really just drove home that feeling of pay to win from Borderlands 3. And while we all know that this isn't true, it really didn't help the argument that the most powerful shield in this game was also the last shield added to the game. The Revolter is insanely powerful, so much so that it can make almost any weapon work, even the most mediocre blue or purple weapons. This gave the less appreciated weapons of this game a second life, and gave the more powerful weapons even more stomping power. Which, while this didn't actually improve Borderlands' balance, it made the damage floor for weapons being useful a lot lower. However, it did pretty much shatter Borderlands 3's shield meta. The Revolter is undeniably the best shield in the game for every character aside from Mo's. In fact, there's no other shield that even comes close to the Revolter in terms of sheer offensive potential, which really sucks considering it's locked behind a $40 Canadian paywall. Thankfully, the Revolter isn't absolutely necessary for endgame damage, and powerful builds can still be crafted without it. However, it still makes every other shield in this game seem far less useful than they actually are, despite the fact that there are loads of fun shields in Borderlands 3. The Revolter makes all the other shields in Borderlands 3 look bad, and that 200% extra damage makes it incredibly hard to pick anything else over it, even though Borderlands 3 has a buttload of other shields that are good for your build if you don't really need that damage, like the Plus Ultra, the Transformer, the Madcap, and many others. Although if you're gonna go for pure, uncompromising maximum damage, then the Revolter is really your only option, and you're gonna have to fork over the $40 for Season Pass 2 if you haven't already. With that said though, I want to know what your favorite shield in this game is, not including the Revolter. Let me know in the comments down below. Thank you all so much for watching and have a fantastic day.